I remember the sound first, not the word, not the moment everything collapsed, not even the look on her face, just the sound. A faint, almost delicate click, like something small locking into place. It came from somewhere behind me, or inside me. I still can't tell which. And for a second, just one thin, stretched out second, I had the strange, hollow certainty that whatever that sound belonged to, what? It wasn't supposed to happen yet. I didn't turn around immediately. That's the part that keeps replaying. Not what they said, not what I lost, but that hesitation. That microscopic pause where my body, what? Knew something before my mind did. My fingers were still resting on the edge of the table. The wood was smooth, recently polished. I could feel the faint resistance of varnish under my skin, the way it slightly dragged instead of letting my fingertips glide. I pressed harder, as if pressure could anchor me, as if the table was still real. Across from me, Min didn't speak. He had already finished speaking. That was the problem. There was no more dialogue left to hide behind, only silence. And in that silence, everything began to rearrange itself into something I didn't recognize. You signed it, his voice didn't rise, didn't fall, it just, what? Existed. Flat, certain, final. I blinked, slowly, too slowly, because my brain was still trying to catch up to something it didn't want to process. Why? My voice came out thinner than I expected. No, I didn't know you did. This time it wasn't Min. It was Lan. And that, more than anything, shifted something inside my chest. Because Lan never interrupted. Lan observed, calculated, waited, but she didn't interrupt. Until now. I turned to look at her, and immediately wished I hadn't, because her expression didn't match the situation. It wasn't anger. It wasn't even disappointment. It was, what? Calm. Too calm. Kind of calm that doesn't exist unless something has already been decided, already finished, already sealed. Like the outcome had happened long before I was invited into the room. I didn't sign anything, I said again. But the sentence felt different this time. Weaker. Like it didn't believe itself. My tongue felt heavy. There was a dryness in my mouth that no amount of swallowing seemed to fix. Min leaned back in his chair. The leather creaked under his weight, slow and deliberate, like the room itself was reacting to him. You really don't remember that question. God. That question wasn't curiosity. It was positioning, a step, a shift. He wasn't asking what I remembered. He was telling me what I shouldn't. I remember everything, I said. Too quickly. The words snapped out of me before I could evaluate them. And immediately something in Lan's eyes. What? Sharpened. Not surprise. Recognition. Like I had just stepped exactly where she expected me to. Then this will be easy, she said softly. She reached into her bag. Slow. Controlled. Every movement precise, almost rehearsed. Paper slid against paper. A faint whispering sound. And then she placed it on the table. In front of me. The document didn't look threatening. That's what made it worse. Clean. Structured. Professional. My name was there. Typed. Nate. Unemotional. And beneath it, a signature. My signature, no. Not mine. It couldn't be. I leaned forward. Too fast. The chair legs scraped against the floor, sharp and jarring, but no one reacted. No one flinched. Because they weren't surprised. I was the only one still catching up. I stared at the signature. The curve of the letters. The slight pressure mark. The way the final stroke dipped just a little lower than usual. Tiny detail. Details only I would notice. Details that made it worse. Because it wasn't just similar, it was, what? Accurate. Too accurate. My chest tightened. Not sharply. Not suddenly. But gradually. Like something invisible was wrapping around my ribs, pulling tighter with each second I looked at it. I didn't know I started. But my voice faltered. Because something inside me hesitated. Just for a second. And that second was enough. Min saw it. Of course he did. He always saw hesitation. He lived in it. Exploited it. Stretched it until it broke. You don't have to lie, he said. Again calm. Again control. every word placed carefully, like stepping stones across a river. This isn't about blame. That sentence almost made me laugh. Almost. Because everything about this was about blame. Just not in the way I expected. I didn't sign it, I said again. But now the sentence felt like it was drifting. Like it didn't have weight. Like it was floating away from me even as I spoke it. Lan tilted her head slightly, studying me. Not react, not pushing, just observing. And somehow that was worse. Because she wasn't trying to convince me. She was waiting for me to convince myself. Then how is it there? Her voice was soft, almost gentle, and it landed harder than anything Min had said, because there was no accusation in it. Only inevitability. I didn't answer immediately, because I didn't have one. And the longer I stayed silent, the more the silence started to feel like an answer itself. My eyes dropped back to the paper, to the signature. My signature. Not mine. Mine. Not mine. The contradiction looped, over and over, each repetition tightening something inside my head. I tried to remember. That was the instinct. Go back. Reconstruct. Find the moment, the proof. But the moment I reached for memory, it slipped. Not completely. Just enough. Like trying to grab something through water, a meeting, a pen, a conversation. But the detail. Blurry. Edges softened. Out of focus. My breathing changed. I didn't notice it at first. Only that the room felt smaller. The air thicker. Like I had to pull each breath in instead of it coming naturally. I think, Lan said quietly, you should sit down. I was already sitting. That's when it hit me. Not all at once. Not dramatically. But like a slow, sinking realization that spreads through your body instead of striking it. She didn't mind physically. She meant mentally. Sit down. Stop resisting. Stop standing against something that had already been decided. No, I said. But the word came out. Wrong. Flat. Detached. Like it didn't belong to me. Min leaned forward slightly. Just enough to shift the balance of the room. You're making this harder than it needs to be. Harder for who? Question formed in my mind. But I didn't say it. Because something told me the moment I asked, I would already know the answer. The paper sat there. Unmoving. Silent. Heavy. I reached out. Slowly. My fingers hovered over the signature. Just above it. Not touching. Because touching it felt like crossing something irreversible. But not touching it didn't help either. Go ahead, Lan said. Encouraging. Soft. Like guiding someone through something simple. Something obvious. I lowered my hand. Just slightly. And my fingertip brushed the ink. It didn't smudge. Of course it didn't. The pressure in my chest tightened again. Another knot. Another turn. Because that meant it wasn't fresh. Which meant it had been there longer than I thought. Which meant there was time I wasn't accounting for. And that was worse than anything else. I pulled my hand back. Too fast this time. Like I had touched something hot. I didn't sign it, I said again. But now it sounded like a question. And Lan smiled. Just slightly. Not wide. Not obvious. But enough. That was the moment something inside me shifted. Not broke. Not yet. But moved. Out of alignment. Because I realized this wasn't about proving them wrong. It was about proving myself right. And I wasn't sure I could. The room felt quieter. Not physically. There were still faint sounds, the hum of electricity, distant traffic, the subtle movement of fabric as someone shifted in their seat. But internally, everything narrowed. Focus. Compressed. You should take some time, Min said. Think about it. Think about what? The question screamed in my head. But again, I didn't say it. Because I already was. And it wasn't helping. Lan stood up. Smooth. Effortless. Like the conversation had reached its natural conclusion. Like there was nothing left to discuss. We'll give you space, she said. Space. The word echoed. Distorted. Because it didn't feel like space. It felt like abandonment. Like being left alone in something I didn't understand. They moved toward the door. Not rushed. Not hesitant. Just certain. I didn't stop them. I didn't call out. I didn't even move. Because I was still staring at the paper, at the signature, at the version of myself that existed on that page, whether I remembered him or not. The door closed. Softly. Another click. And this time I felt it. Something locked. Not in the room, in me. I exhaled. Slow, shallow, unsteady. And for the first time, I wasn't trying to prove anything. Not to them. Not even to myself. I was just trying to understand one simple, terrifying possibility. What if they didn't take everything from me? What if I gave it to them and don't remember doing it? The thought didn't explode. It didn't shock me. It settled, heavy, quiet, like it had been waiting. And now that it was here, it didn't feel like a question anymore. It felt like the beginning of something I couldn't stop. The silence doesn't settle, it stretches. That's the first thing I notice after the door closes, that it doesn't behave like silence should. It doesn't rest. It doesn't sit still, it pulls, it elongates. It threads itself through everything, between objects, between breaths, between thoughts, until even the smallest movement feels like it has to tear through it. I don't move. Not because I decide not to. Because something in me forgets how. My eyes are still on the paper, on the signature. That version of me, or the version they want me to believe exists. I try to blink normally, but it comes out delayed, like the signal has to travel through something thick before it reaches my eyes. The room feels dimmer. Not visually, nothing has changed, but perceptually, like a layer has been placed over everything. A filter. A softness that blurs edges just enough to make everything feel slightly unreal. My hand is still hovering where it was before. Not touching the paper now, but close enough that I can feel it, or imagine I can. I lower it, slowly. This time I don't hesitate, because hesitation didn't help before. And something inside me, quiet, almost resigned, wants to see what happens if I stop resisting. My fingertip touches the signature again. Still dry, still permanent, still mine. My chest tightens, but not in panic, in recognition. And that's worse. Because panic means rejection. Recognition means acceptance. No, I whisper. But it isn't a denial anymore. It's a request. A fragile, barely formed plea directed at something I can't identify. I pull the paper closer. The sound of it sliding across the table feels too loud, too sharp, like it doesn't belong in this room. My name, typed above the signature. Perfect, clean, impersonal. And below it, the curved, familiar distortion of my handwriting. There's a slight pressure mark at the beginning of the first letter. I always press harder at the start. Always. It's muscle memory, not something you fake easily. My breathing becomes more noticeable. Not faster, just louder. Like I can hear the air moving inside my chest, scraping against something. Okay, I say. To no one, to myself. To the room, to the version of me on the paper. I signed it, the words land, flat, heavy, and the moment they settle, something shifts. Not relief, not clarity, something worse, because accepting it doesn't answer anything. It opens everything. When, why, how. I close my eyes and immediately regret it, because the darkness behind them isn't empty. It's active. There are shapes, not visual ones, nothing I can clearly see, but impressions. Fragments, moments that almost form but never fully arrive. A pen in my hand, the weight of it, the subtle indentation against my finger, a voice, not clear enough to identify, just a tone, calm, encouraging. Just sign here, my eyes snap open. The room rushes back in, but not fully, not correctly, like it's slightly out of sync with me. I lean back in the chair, slow, careful, testing whether the world will move with me or resist. It moves, but it feels delayed, a fraction of a second behind. That's not real, I say, but I don't believe it, because it felt real, too real, too specific. I press my fingers against my temple, not hard, just enough to feel pressure, to remind myself there's something solid there, something consistent. Think. That's the instinct again. But now it feels dangerous, because every time I reach for memory, I don't find answers. I find one distortion. I look back at the paper, the signature, still there, unchanged, unaffected by my uncertainty. They didn't take it, the thought forms slowly, carefully, like stepping onto unstable ground. I gave it, my stomach tightens. A deeper sensation this time. Not sharp, not sudden, but spreading, like something sinking downward inside me. No, the word comes out stronger, but it echoes wrong, like it doesn't fit the space. Because if I gave it, then this isn't about them. It's about me. And that's something I can't structure, can't control, can't place outside of myself. I stand up, abruptly this time. The chair scrapes again, but now the sound feels distant, like it's happening in another room. I start pacing, not consciously. My body just moves, back and forth, short step, measured, repeating the same path without realizing it. Think. The word repeat, but it's losing meaning, becoming just a sound. I try to reconstruct the moment again, the signing, the meeting. There was a room, like this one, or maybe this is that room. I can't tell. Lan was there. Of course she was. She's always there when something matters. Men too, leaning back, watching, waiting, and me, sitting, listening. What were they saying? I ask it out loud. The room doesn't answer, but something inside me does. You agreed, the voice isn't external. It's not a memory exactly. It's closer to a conclusion. No, I didn't. You did. I stopped pacing. Because now there are two positions, two versions, and both of them feel like mine. I turn toward the table again. The paper. Proof. But proof of what? That I signed. Or that I could sign. I walk back slowly, each step deliberate, measured, like I'm approaching something volatile. I sit down again, this time more carefully, more aware. I place both hands on the table, flat, grounded, trying to anchor myself in something physical. Why would I sign it? The question feels stronger, more structured, like something I can work with. Money? No, I'm not careless. Pressure? Maybe. Trust? My throat tightens. Trust. That word feels dangerous, because trust means I didn't just sign something. I believed something. I close my eyes again, slower this time, prepared. The pen returned. Clearer now, the angle, the slight tilt of my wrist. Lan's voice, soft, measured. It's just a formality. My chest tightens sharply. This time it is sudden, a formality. That word lands like a key turning. Because I remember saying something. What is this for? And her response, it's nothing you haven't already agreed to. My eyes open again. Vast. The room feels smaller, much smaller. Because now there's a structure. They didn't force me. They guided me, step by step, layer by layer. Agreement before understanding. Trust before clarity. And by the time I asked the right question, it didn't matter anymore. Because the answer had already been decided. I signed, not under pressure, not under threat, under alignment. And that's worse, because it means I was part of it. Not a victim, a participant. I left, a short, hollow sound that doesn't feel like it belongs to me. They didn't take everything I say. My voice steadies, but not in a good way. They just let me give it away. The realization doesn't explode, it settles, like everything else. And with it, something else begins to shift. Because if I gave it away, then there's nothing to get back. Only something to rebuild. But rebuild from what? That's when I notice it. A small detail. Something I missed before. At the bottom of the page, under the signature, a clause. I lean close, eyes narrow, breath slowing. And as I read it, something inside me. Stop. Not break. Not collapses. Stop. Because the clause doesn't just transfer ownership. It transfers identity, authority, like this, decision-making power. Everything that defined my position, gone. Legally, cleanly, completely. And the name that replaces it isn't Min, isn't Lan. It's on mine. But not exactly a variation, a structure. A version of me that exists on paper, but not in me. Or maybe not yet. I stare at it, trying to understand. Because if I signed this, then I didn't just give everything away. I reassigned to a version of myself I don't recognize. My breathing slowed, not from calm, from something else, something colder. Because this isn't lost, it's replacement. And I don't know which version of me made that decision, or why. I lean back again, slowly, carefully. The room feels different now. Not smaller, not larger, just unfamiliar. Like I'm seeing it from the wrong angle, or as the wrong person. I started over, I whisper. The sentence feels incomplete, because I didn't choose to start over. I was rewritten. And the version of me that exists now, sitting here, breathing, thinking, trying to understand, might not be the one who signed that paper. Or worse, might be the one who signed it, but doesn't remember why. The silence stretches again, but this time it doesn't feel empty. It feels like it's waiting for me to become something I haven't decided yet, or something that's already been decided. I look at the signature one last time. My signature, his signature, our signature. And for the first time, I don't try to separate them. Because maybe that's the mistake. Maybe there was never a clear line. Only a slow shift I didn't notice until it was already complete. The door behind me stays closed, but I don't look at it anymore. Because leaving this room wouldn't change anything. Whatever happened didn't happen here. It happened in me. And it's still happening. Quietly. Precisely, irreversibly. I place my hand over the signature, not to hide it, but to feel it. And this time I don't pull away, because whether I remember it or not, it's mine. And that realization doesn't bring closure. It removes it, leaving something open, unfinished, unstable, something that doesn't end, only continues, inside me. And the worst part, the part I can't escape, is the quiet, creeping certainty that this wasn't the first time I've done something like this. Just the first time. I noticed.